Short part because it's getting late here, but in Song of Solomon we finished off really saying that it repeats it twice in the Song of Solomon: until the day break, the shadows flee away. This is until Jesus comes back again, okay? Until the full knowledge of Him. I will get me to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. Okay, this corresponds directly to the book of Philippians. Chapter 3, where's the verse? Okay. That Paul says, verse 10, he says he wants to know Yeshua, Jesus, and the power of His resurrection. That's the faith, that's the frankincense, and the fellowship of His sufferings. That's the myrrh, and that's two things Paul wanted both of them. He wanted the faith and the frankincense. He wanted the back to the hills of myrrh, into the mountains of myrrh, and to the hill of frankincense. Okay, so the mountains of myrrh, you need more of this to get this. Okay. Okay, there's mountains and there's hills. Hills are a bit smaller than mountains. Okay. So you need this to get this. You need the fellowship of His suffering to get the power of His resurrection. And that's what Paul says. He says we're heirs of the Father, joint heirs with Christ, if be it we suffer with Him. Our inheritance comes through partaking of His suffering. That comes from the myrrh. The myrrh and the frankincense are dominant. We will at some time go through all the fruits of the Spirit. Today we discovered two. We discovered spikenard a little bit. Love is pomegranates. It's another story. But here, the fragrance of the myrrh is tears of myrrh. It's bitter, and the fragrance comes out through fire. And also, frankincense was used on the grain offering, which is another very. I had a vision of the grain offering when I was 21 years old, and with the meaning of it. So that's another lesson. Okay, so a little bit about the incenses. This frankincense comes from a tree called boswellia. Okay, and it's not the essential oils that you buy. It's got nothing to do with this. Okay, and in Jordan you can get what they call, you can buy in the market frankincense, but it's not the real stuff. Okay, what you can get in the market here in Jerusalem. It comes from Saudi Arabia, and the tree only matures in a climate not lower than 26 degrees Celsius and not higher than 33. And there's only one part in the world where trees can grow into maturity to produce frankincense. That's in the area of Somalia and Oman. If you grow a tree in anywhere else in the world, in Egypt or in Israel, it won't mature to be able to produce the frankincense from it. It's the same with the myrrh. So they do grow the frankincense tree but in Jordan, but it comes out slightly deformed, as you see. It doesn't come out the real stuff into the maturity where you can make oil out of it. Okay? So the tree of frankincense is boswellia, and the tree of myrrh is balsam onendron. Okay, and you have to cut the tree for the sap. Okay, so the sap is actually repels insects, because the trees have within the sap compounds within the sap to protect it from insects and animals. So when I first discovered frankincense, I lighted some up at home, and we found out to our delight that the cockroaches were coming out wobbly and drunk, you know. There's one solution for frankincense, for cockroaches. You can light some frankincense, or you can buy in the hardware store a cockroach hotel, and the motto is they check in but they don't check out. I couldn't resist that one, sorry. But anyway, it does get rid, and what they used to begin burning it years ago, when they were burying someone and when their body was laid and the body was decaying. And here all around Jerusalem, we have 164 graves from the first temple period. And they would lie the body out on a stone slab, and the body would decay, and then when they were just bones, they would put the bones into another room with their parents' bones and their relations' bones, and they were gathered to their fathers. Hence the expression, he was gathered to his fathers. And but their relations, you would always bury the dead not too far away, so you would lose a connection with them, and not too close, so they make you sick. So but when you visited them, you would burn this incense because it would cleanse the air and you wouldn't get sick. It would just take away the germs. So if you want to be flu free, you can burn that in your home in the evenings, but it's very hard to get the real stuff. The frankincense, the myrrh, Queen Esther had 6 months treatment of the oil of myrrh, which is suffering without retaliating. So if there's anyone here that's feeling called to be intercessors, it's very nice to bath in the real myrrh because the fragrance is pleasant, but it's very unpleasant to go for actually the preparation, being a member of the body of Christ and suffering without retaliating, because this is what equips you of becoming an intercessor. You have to have 6 months of this treatment, or you have a bit of this treatment. So here you go, you intercessors. Have some myrrh. Mark Antony, Cleopatra, she when she was going to meet Mark Antony, she put she bathed in myrrh, and then she put frankincense on her sails, piles of it. So Mark Antony she'll get a whiff of it before he met her, and he'll be in a good mood. So when she actually met him, she wanted to buy the a spice orchard near En Gedi. That was one of her requests from him. But anyway, this stuff was very expensive. Half a kilo of this stuff was 50 denarii, which is about $5,000. Okay, so I'm holding in my hand, which would be equivalent in those days, $5,000. This will be about half a kilo here. Okay, so Pliny the Elder, he wrote the book on nature. You can probably find his book on the internet, I don't know, but it's in the library. I have it in his writings in Hebrew, and it's translated into Hebrew as well. And he describes the incenses and how they produce them. The Nabateans used to bring them on caravans of camel. One camel could carry 150 kilos of this. And remember, you've got half a kilo for about $5,000. You can imagine they became very, very rich. Augustus, the Roman emperor, said about the Nabateans, I'm either going to make friends I'm either going to subdue rich friends or rich enemies. One way, if the Nabateans weren't going to surrender voluntarily, he was going to subdue them. But this is very expensive stuff, even today. But there's a lot more to it than that. But that's just, they're trying to regrow the trees in En Gedi with artificial surroundings to bring it into maturity to reproduce the oil. But as far as I heard, they haven't succeeded, but they're attempting to do it. Okay, so once again, God bless you from Jerusalem, and until the next lesson, this is Netanel. Bye for now.